Hello Swedish Doctor Who fans. Jag kan tala lite svenska. Lite svenska. So I will speak in English. I'm sorry you can't come and see me today in Stockholm. Thousands of people have, and we're all having a great time. But to those of you who couldn't make it, hello. Keep watching Doctor Who, especially the 6th Doctor. Do you hear that? Especially the 6th Doctor. Bye-bye. When some extras were supposed to attack me while I was holding on to a chain, and my finger got caught in the chain, and they pulled my legs away and dislocated the finger. But apart from that, I survived unscathed. Even that scene, if you know it, when I'm rattling down the hill on top of the trolley, that really was me. And I really was tied to the top of the trolley, and I really was scared. But I didn't let them know that. I'm very foolish. Yes, the actor's maxim is always, they say, can you parachute? Yes, done it lots of times, and then go and learn. It can come, I mean, I did that once. I've never been on a horse. Can you horse ride? Yes. And I went and got lessons and got away with it. But a friend of mine said yes when they said, can you drive? Which is a bit silly. And he crashed the car when they were filming. So you have to temper that somewhat. But go for everything, that's my advice. Sir.
Hi, one of my favorite episodes is The Two Doctors. And I wonder how it was working with the great late Patrick Troughton.
I suppose that's the answer to your question. My favourite memory was working with Patrick Troughton. I'd known Patrick anyway for many years because his son David and I shared a flat together when we started out as actors for 3 or 4 years. So I knew David well, and I was David's best man when he got married. So I met Patrick at the wedding, obviously. But for me, Patrick Troughton had the most difficult job. If he hadn't done that first regeneration so superbly, nobody remembers actually who it was first came up with the idea to regenerate as a means of explaining the fact that an actor's decided he doesn't want to play the part anymore. They could have gone, oh well, that's the end of Doctor Who. But someone came up with that brilliant idea, regeneration. And if they got the casting wrong of the 2nd Doctor, you'd all be standing there now going, why are we here? Because there wouldn't have been a 3, 4, 5, etc. into infinity. So, for me, he was a great actor. He was a great character, actually. Played some amazing parts. And he was a really nice man. Of all of my doctors who came before me to do a 2-Doctor story with, he would have been my choice. And also we got to film in Spain, and they lost the wigs and makeup, so we had 3 days in Spain, sitting by the pool in a luxury hotel, enjoying ourselves until we could shoot a single scene. It was hell. We got to play a wonderful game. You know that game you play when you're young in swimming pools? You get your friend on your shoulders and you wrestle to try and knock each other over. Well, it was Doctors and Companions. So I had Nicola Bryant sitting on my shoulders. Think about it, guys. And poor old Pat had Fraser Hines. That was my favourite moment in Doctor Who. But it was just such a love. That was the only overseas filming we ever had. And we had a wonderful 10 days or so in Seville in Spain, in the appalling heat. Have you ever, does heat mean anything to you here in Sweden? It's a bit like England, don't worry. And it was happy memories. And those 3 years were the best 3 years of my acting life because everybody wanted to be in the show. Nobody was doing Doctor Who because it was just a job that came along. Their children made them do it. I had an actor who was offered a part, I knew an actor who was offered a part in Doctor Who and was going to turn it down. And his son said, I will never speak to you again. if you don't play this part. So he did. That's how popular it certainly was in my day, and it's even more popular now. Any more hands?
We got one over here. What did you think of your costume as a doctor?
Well, when they offered me the part, they asked me to go away and think about what kind of costume I would like to wear. And I came back and I said, well, given the fact that the doctor is very often in very difficult situations where he may arguably wish to disappear into the background, I would like something, and then what I described was almost exactly what Christopher Eccleston got 30 years later. All black, long black coat, just do that and vanish. What did I get? An explosion in a rainbow factory. Try and disappear into the background wearing that. No, it doesn't work. The only consolation was I was on the inside looking out. The rest of you had to look at it. But you do have to remember, it was the 80s. It was the time of glam rock. All those preposterously dressed rock bands that we look back now and say, did they really dress like that? Yes, they did. And so did the people who were around then. And the clothes we wore in the 70s and 80s are ridiculous. But that is the phase you were going through then. So, if you look at each doctor, what he is wearing very often is a very good guide to what was going on economically, socially, at that time in the country, in Britain, where it was happening. So, yeah, I never liked it. Although now I have to say I'm warming to it, because the BBC has finally realised the value of the programme they've got, and they're marketing it like fury. You can buy Doctor Who underwear, you can buy Doctor Who bobsleighs, you can buy Doctor Who everything, and you can buy little figures. And the children, when they look at the figures of the doctors, there's one that leaps out at them. It is brightly coloured. Children like brightly coloured things. They sell more of mine than any of the others. Old Sixie wins in the end.
Yes.
And of course you do realise that Doctor Who stopped at the end of my time, don't you? Have you seen the regeneration scene? Was I there? Was I there? No. Sylvester, lying in my coat, pretending to be me, does not work. He's a pretender. It was a new line of doctors that started then. I was the last of the originals. I was number 6. He was number 1 of the new lot. And it's interesting that the new number 6, Peter Capaldi, is angry, difficult, hard to like. Where have we seen that before? And I think he's very good too. Where have we seen that before?
Yeah, speaking of the costume, how come you wear different cat badges each episode?
Cat badges, that was my idea. Because it was immediately after Peter, and Peter had this stick of celery that always confused me somewhat. You know, why would you want to carry a wilting vegetable around with you? Is it a vegetable? Or is it? Yes, it is a vegetable, isn't it? And of course that became clear eventually when it was a powerful antidote to Spectrox toxemia. Hey! Hence the celery. So I thought some sort of decoration would be nice. And there's a writer and poet called Rudyard Kipling, and there is a quote from him which is, "I am the cat who walks by himself, and all places are alike to me." And I thought that was perfect for the Doctor. So the cat's personality for me is exactly that of the Doctor. He comes into your life when he wants to. He goes when he wants to. Cats take it a bit further. They will sit on your lap until you're so uncomfortable because you don't move. And as soon as they want to go, they're off. Well, I kind of like that. Dogs just love you whatever you do. Whereas cats are kind of difficult to get a handle on. And I think the Doctor should be as well. So I just had that as an idea. And then subsequently, I had little images of my own cats made for each new story. So the cats change story by story. I quite enjoyed that. There's a hand there, there's one down there. The one down there is prettier. We'll come back to you, sir. Go to the pretty lady.
If Big Finish got the new series license, which new Who Doctor would you want to record a story with first?
Say it again.
If Big Finish got the new series license, which new Who Doctor would you want to record a story with first?
If Big Finish... Did you hear? Tell me.
Yeah, if Big Finish... Well, please try it again. If Big Finish...
If you could make a Big Finish story with a new Who Doctor, a new series...
With a new Doctor?
Yeah.
Oh. It was the new Who Doctor that fooled me. If I could make a Big Finish story with a new series Doctor, which one would it be? Oh, it's so difficult. They're all... I think I would be too close to Peter Capaldi. You get two very similar characters. I think it might be Eccleston. Because once again, he did the difficult job. After all those years in the wilderness, he came back and he was a completely different Doctor. And he had kind of lots of anger and drive and purpose. And I thought he did really well. And he was in the best story that was ever written for me, which was The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances. In England, after the first episode, every school, every child in every primary school was going around saying, "You my mummy," which was brilliant and scary. And the best line in Doctor Who ever was, "Everybody lives." And every time I hear that, I get the same shiver down my spine. Because if Doctor Who's about anything, it's summed up when he said, "Everybody lives." Brilliant. Love it. So, even though the others are all fabulous, I'd choose him. There you are. Now, you're a handsome man, you're not a gorgeous girl.
I have to formulate this in my head.
Take your time.
Are you, or were you before Doctor Who a very science fiction kind of guy? And if so, what is your second favorite series or, thing in sci-fi?
I get it. Yes, I was. From the time that I read my very first sci-fi books with John Wyndham, I think the first one ever was The Kraken Wakes. And then I read The Chrysalids, and then I read The Day of the Triffids, and then The Seeds and whatever it's called, can't remember now. I read all the John Wyndham books, and then I realised that this was a genre that I liked. I was in my late teens, early 20s then. So I read Asimov and Kornbluth and Frederick Pohl, all those writers that you've probably never heard of. And probably the majority of what I read was science fiction when I was in my teens and 20s. And during all that time, it was regarded as a kind of subgenre. It was not regarded with any kind of respect by literary, television or film circles. And it's only in the last 20 years that suddenly sci-fi and fantasy have become not only legit, but they've trumped legit. They've gone beyond and not sitting on top of the pile now. And so the BBC, which was always slightly embarrassed, the the men at the top of the BBC didn't quite like the fact that Doctor Who was popular. It was a kind of silly programme for geeks. But suddenly the success of Life on Mars and that one about wartime Britain and going backwards and forwards in time, suddenly time travel became not only okay, but popular across the board. So suddenly now, the best films that are being made are things like The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and all. Thank you. One person agrees with me. And the box office is the films cost billions, but they make billions more because people like it. People want to escape. They want to find that as life gets more and more oppressive, some would argue, escape becomes much more important. So Doctor Who weathered the storm during its 11 years or so in the wilderness and has now come back bigger and better. Of course, what they can do now with it is, I'm so jealous of, a scene where we were chased by Daleks took hours to film because the poor people inside the Daleks couldn't see, they fell over, Cybermen tripped over each other. Now it's all done in post-production and it looks brilliant. And they say it's much better than it used to be in the old days. Yeah, but we couldn't do that. They can do, with a computer in 2 minutes, what it would take a week to do back in the 1980s. But your question was about what I liked. My second favourite programme, very difficult. Does Twin Peaks count? I'll have Twin Peaks then. There you are.
Yeah, we've got one final question, but we need to round up, unfortunately.
We're having fun, aren't we? I have a question down there. I want to ask a question of myself. It had better be good after that build-up.
Oh, yes. What is your favourite work that you have done on stage?
What's the favourite work I've done on stage?
Yes, your favourite performance on stage.
Well, I have played the Doctor on stage, of course. In 1989, The Ultimate Adventure, was it called? I can't remember. But sadly, that isn't my favourite. My favourite was the very first job I did after I finished playing the Doctor. And it was a play called Corpse, in which I played twin brothers, one of whom was trying to kill the other. Now, as you can see, that presented certain problems in staging, but it was done so cleverly, and it was one of those plays where obviously I was on stage the whole time, sometimes twice. I used to be a little faster on my feet then. But that play went down extremely well, and I did it for a year, and I just loved doing it. And the other play that I enjoyed the most was Privates on Parade by Peter Nichols. And I played Captain Terry Dennis. And I got to dress up as Vera Lynn, Carmen Miranda, Vera Lynn, Carmen Miranda, the German one, Marlene Dietrich, thank you very much. Falling in love again. So that was fun too. I obviously like dressing up as a woman. And I suspect you have that in you as well. You've been lovely, he's forcing me to stop. Go on, have one more question.
Yeah,
one more. Who's got there's a young lady down there. The younger one in pink, sorry.
Who's your favourite enemy in Doctor Who?
My favourite enemy in Doctor Who is Davros. Mainly because doing Big Finish, which is the audio adventures, I've done some really good stories with him. And the man who created the Daleks deserves some kind of credit. Because everyone says Daleks are Cybermen, but Davros created them. And it's a bit like Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty. Davros is a sort of master character, but the master has been through a turbulent time lately, And not all masters, in my opinion, have been as successful as, say, Roger Delgado, who for me was the master. So yes, I'll say Davros, my favourite villain. All right, I'll stop. He's looking at me with daggers.
I'm sorry, but
We're having such fun. Aren't they lovely? You're lovely, all of you. Well, you can always come by the table and ask me some more questions, if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, you can. Thank you very much. Tack så mycket.
That's right, keep the applause going. Ladies and gentlemen, Colin Baker!